started today by finding the pattern in this triangle, and much like the addition subtraction triangle we did before, same kind of pattern. So the related facts are that 6 times 5 is 30, 5 times 6 is 30, 30 divided by 6 is 5, and 30 divided by 5 is 6. And all of you see that pattern with whole numbers really easily. So next we looked at, what if we have a fraction and a whole number? So the related facts here are the same idea, 1/2 times 18, and if you think of multiplication as the word of, a half of 18 is 9. If you had 18 euros and I said give me half, all of you would know that a half of 18 is 9. And multiplication, you can put the word of in and it's the same exact, that's the meaning in real life. And 18 times a half is also 9. And 9 divided by 18 is a half. Think of the fraction 9 over 18. And 9 divided by a half is 18, because that means how many groups of a half are in 9? Every whole has 2 halves. So 9 divided by a half is the same thing as 9 times 2. To divide by a fraction, you can multiply by its reciprocal, because every one whole has 2 halves in it. So 2 wholes have 4 halves, 3 wholes have 6 halves, 9 wholes have 18 halves, and that's what that means. And here are the related facts. And then if we have variables, same idea. C times H is P, H times C is P, P divided by C is H, and P divided by H is C. So remember, it's factor times factor equals product. Product divided by one factor gives you the other, and the product divided by the first factor gives you the second. Okay, then we corrected your homework and went over that. And then we continue with this idea. So if I have negative numbers that are decimals, same idea. So you guys came and wrote this up. So -3/10 times 5 is -1.5. And then I said, think about this with money. If you owe 30 cents to 5 different people, that debt 5 times would be that you're in total debt 1.5 euros. That's the meaning of it. So 5 times -3/10 is -1.5, and then the division is true also. -1.5 divided by 5 is -3/10, and -1.5 divided by -3/10 is 5. That means there's 5 groups of -3/10 and -1.5. And then with fractions, the same idea. 3 times a fourth is 3/4. So look at the picture of my pizza. Here's a fourth, here's a fourth, here's a fourth. 3 groups of a fourth makes 3/4 of a pizza. 1/4 of 3 is 3/4. So if I had 3 different pizzas and I took a fourth of it, that would a fourth of each one. I'd put these together and get 3/4 of one pizza. 3/4 divided into 3 equal groups gives me 1/4 each. This is a fourth, this is a fourth, this is a fourth, and 3/4 divided by a fourth means how many groups of a fourth are in 3/4, and there's 1, 2, 3 of them. So that's how we get that 3. So just getting you to understand your operations with multiplication and division. Okay, the multiplication property of equality. So this is really simple. If 3 times 4 is 12, which it is, then the multiplication of property of equality says I can multiply the left side of this equal sign of this equation by 2, and I can multiply the right side by 2, and it doesn't change the fact that this is balanced. So this is 12, 12 times 2 is 24. This is 12, 12 times 2 is 24. So multiplying both sides by the same number keeps a true balanced equation. So what this looks like in terms of algebra is if A equals B, then A times C equals B times C. All I'm doing is multiplying both sides by the same number, C. And all it means in words is multiplying the same thing on both sides keeps the equation balanced. So if it's true to start with, it stays true. The division property of equality is really the same idea, only instead of adding something to both sides of the equation or subtracting the same thing from both sides of the equation or multiplying both sides of the equation by the same number, now I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by the same number, 3. So 12 times 2 is 24. This is true. So if I divide 12 times 2 by 3, I get 8. And if I divide 24 by 3, I get 8. What it looks like with algebra is if A equals B, then A divided by C equals B divided by C. If I divide by the same number, as long as it's not 0, remember you can never divide by 0, I keep a true balanced equation. All right, then we looked at, gee, how can you use these ideas to solve an equation? So I said use the fact triangle above to solve this equation. We know that 12 times x is 180, so 180 divided by 12 is x. 180 divided by 12 is 15. So 15 times 12 is 180, 12 times 15 is 180, 180 divided by 12 is 15, and 180 divided by 15 is 12. If I'm going to use the division property of equality, I have this multiplication equation, 12 times x is 180, and if I want to solve that, 12 times x is 180, I just divide both sides of this equation by the same number 12. I'm trying to get rid of this 12, so I have the answer is 15. So I can use the division property of equality here. I'm just dividing both sides by the same number 12 to solve this equation and get that x is 15. Same with this one. I had you do this one on your own. So I know that this is the product, and these two factors multiplied together give me this product. So 5 times x is negative 40. And I also can use the division property of equality to solve this. I divide both sides by 5, and I get x equals negative 8. Negative 8 times 5 is negative 40. I can also use the triangle fact. Negative 40 divided by 5 is equal to x, because this is the product divided by this factor gives me the other factor. These are saying the same thing. In both cases, x is negative 40. And then I had you guess what this meant, and all of you knew, gee, if I multiply anything by 0, I get 0. That is as simple as it is for the multiplication property of 0. Zero product property is going the other way. It's saying if the product is 0, what has to be true about the factors? Well, either A is 0, B is 0, or they're both 0. So if I tell you that the product is 0, then one of these factors must be 0. That's the only way I'm going to get 0. Or they could both be 0. That's all zero product property is. Okay, two more properties we looked at. This one you guys actually already knew. The multiplication identity property just means that when I multiply any number by 1, the number doesn't change. So 8 times 1 is 8. A million times 1 is a million. The only number that I can multiply by and not change that number is 1. So it's called the identity because 8 still stays 8 if I multiply by 1. The multiplicative inverse is something you guys knew intuitively, but it looks kind of strange. All it means is if I want to multiply two numbers and get 1, they have to be reciprocals. They have to be. 1/3 times 3 is the only thing I can multiply a third by is 3 to get 1. The same thing here. A over 1, what I have to multiply that by is the reciprocal. You flip it upside down, 1 over A, because A times 1 is A times 1 is A, and A divided by itself, as long as it's not 0, is 1. So for this one, we said for any number A where A is not equal to 0, what do I have to multiply A by to get 1? I have to multiply it by its reciprocal, 1 over A. So just put A over 1 and then flip it upside down. I get 1 over A, and that's what I multiply to get 1, because these are reciprocals. And the meaning of a reciprocal, the meaning of the word reciprocal means you need two numbers whose product is 1. So think of, for example, 5 times a fifth. If I take a fifth of 5, I get 1. 5 groups of a fifth is 5/5, which is 1 whole. Okay, then I had you practice a little bit of that. Use this property to help you find reciprocals. So this is also in your book on page 116. So if I want the reciprocal of this number, I put it over 1 and I flip it upside down. And then if I want to know what answer this is a division problem. 1 divided by 1.5626, and you get 0.6399, and it goes on and on. So to the nearest hundredth, it's about 64 hundredths. If I want the reciprocal of negative 34ths, I put it over 1, and then I flip it upside down. So if I put this over 1, the reciprocal is 1 over negative 34. can't write very well with my mouse pad. Boom. And if I want the reciprocal of 4/15, it's already a fraction. I just flip it upside down and I get 15/4. And you could rename that to 3 3/4, or you can just leave it as 15/4. Remember, if I multiply, 4 times 15 is 60, 15 times 4 is 60, and 60 divided by itself is 1, which is what makes these two numbers reciprocals. All right, and then you have a little bit of more homework, so complete 1 hour and 5 topics by Sunday. Page 117, you're going to practice those triangles, and remember you have a quiz next class, your last quiz on Chapter 2. It's on just lessons 2.5 and 2.7. We did not do 2.6, and it's not necessary to do it. Have a look at it and you'll see why. Whoops. Not 2.6, so 2.5 and 2.7. And this is on Moodle also. Enjoy your weekend.